Hi there, how are you doing? I hope you've had a good couple of weeks. Mine have been nice and busy with quite a few fun things going on. A few weekends ago, I had a great catch up with one of my oldest friends from school. We met when we were just 4 on our first day at primary school, and it's fair to say, well, we're both a little bit older than that now. So have therefore known each other, of course, for many, many years. I had a really lovely evening having a drink with him and his wife and his son, and also meeting for the first time his 8-week-old daughter. It was very nice reminiscing and telling his son about how we were perfect pupils when we were at school. No, really, we were. Neither of us were ever given a detention or sent to see the headmaster. So needless to say, I wasn't exactly the edgiest or coolest person at my school. Talking of which, I have mentioned this before, but believe it or not, there is another Neil Quigley, who is a very well-respected dance music DJ and producer. He has recently produced a stripped-down remix of the big Madonna hit Vogue, which appears to be getting quite a bit of attention on the internet. How do I know this, you may ask? Well, on Twitter, I am simply at Neil Quigley, and the other Neil Quigley is at DJ Neil Quigley. During the last week or so, people on the social networking site have been getting us a little confused, and I have been receiving quite a few compliments on my new take on Material Girl's classic song. While I am delighted to take the credit because I have listened to it, and it is very good, I think it's probably the right thing to do to point out on here that it is definitely nothing to do with me and something I have not worked on or produced. I had to go and buy a new suit for something the other day. I always get a bit swept away when I go into a proper suit shop because the staff in there are so good in those places. You'll be just hovering around looking at a couple of different styles, then they will spot you and hone in on you from nowhere for the kill. They will instantly pick out 2 suits that they think look good on you, then just by looking at you they will tell you exactly what size you are and pick the relevant garments off the peg. Before you know it, you're trying one of them on, it fits perfectly, you look great, so a few minutes later you're paying for it while the same member of staff is still trying to sell you a matching shirt and tie set to go with it. Those guys are amazing. Many years ago, on my lunch break once, I went into a designer tailor's just to look at some nice suits with a view to maybe buying one possibly at a later date. But some 30 minutes later, I was sitting back at my desk having just spent around £500 on an Armani suit with a shirt and tie combination included. Just wondering how on earth that had all just happened. It did look great, and it was a very brief and expensive outing that I was not really expecting. Definitely the most I've ever spent in a lunch hour. I've been speaking to an amazing man called Ray Coates recently. He is a singer who 7 years ago was diagnosed with throat cancer, which left him virtually unable to speak for a whole year. Happily, he is now free of the disease and has been for 5 years. He wants to give something back to the people who helped him and in turn hopefully help others in the future. So he is trying to record an album of original songs, which he is planning on both writing and recording himself with the help of some other singers and musicians. Once completed, he hopes the album will raise awareness and much needed funds for the 2020 Voice, which is a head and neck cancer charity. Ray has already released the first single from his proposed album. It's called The Voice Within, and it's available from iTunes and Amazon. If you want to find out more about Ray Coates, check out his website. It's www.raycoates.co.uk. I told you the last time we spoke that I was reading John Cleese's autobiography. So anyway, well, I'm nearly 3/4 of the way through reading it, and it is totally fascinating. Now, I thought I knew quite a bit about his past and how his career developed, but I was very wrong. I've learned lots of things that I had no idea about. For example, he actually had tickets for every single England game for the 1966 World Cup finals, but after watching the first group match against Uruguay, a goalless draw, he gave away his final ticket to Bill Oddie, as he could not see the home country making the final. He was wrong and suitably gutted for missing the greatest moment in English football history so far. I have said this before, but I love Twitter, and here is another reason why I do. I follow John Cleese on it, so I sent him a tweet just telling him how much I was enjoying his book, and he replied with these words. So anyway, thank you Neil Quigley for your kind remarks. Now, it's not every day you get a mention from a comedy legend, is it? I watch, as I do every year, the Brit Awards. I've been lucky enough to attend it in the past, and it is a great night out, really good fun. I thought this year's show was brilliant. It was expertly hosted, of course, by Ant and Dec, who have to be the best presenters in the business. I always feel so relaxed watching them in action, as I know everything is in safe hands and they are in total control. The Brits is a tough gig. As host, you are mainly playing to the people watching on TV, but needing also to include and get some reaction from the guests, who are usually too busy talking or drinking to really get properly involved. But the lads, I thought, pitched it brilliantly, linked it all together faultlessly and kept it moving along nicely, while putting their own stamp on it and making it entertaining. Pure class as far as I'm concerned, and not as easy as it sounds. In the past, many have tried and many have failed. I'm pleased to hear they're already booked to host it again next year. There were some great performances on the night. The British music scene is in a very good state at the moment, I think. Not only are they all hugely talented, but they seem to be nice, polite, humble and supportive of their contemporaries, which I felt made for a very good atmosphere at the event. Well done, in particular, to Paloma Faith, who I think is amazing. Ed Sheeran, who simply just gets up and belts out great songs with just him and his guitar. He's actually sold out Wembley Stadium for 3 nights in the summer, all by himself. I thought both of their live performances were sensational. In fact, all the acts who played live on the night were excellent, and I thought put on great shows. There is one performance I of course have to mention, and that is Madonna. She closed the show performing her latest single, and I did genuinely gasp when her cape didn't release and she got pulled back down some stairs. But fair play, after falling in an utter heap, she dusted herself down and continued with the song, including some quite vigorous dance moves. I've always liked her, and she's done so much for the music industry, so I felt bad for her when her big appearance did not go quite to plan. Or did it? As of course the clip of her stumbling has been watched by millions of people all over the world. She is still a great live performer and knows how to put on a really good show. But the important thing is, she was okay. She is alright. Finally, on the Brits, it was nice to see Jimmy Page there presenting one of the awards. He was looking really well, just so cool and relaxed on stage, as I guess you would expect from one of the greatest guitarists of all time. This is a true story. I once went to a fancy dress party at his house where I got to meet the great man himself while I was dressed as Elvis Presley in full Las Vegas white jumpsuit mode, and while Mr. Page was dressed as an 18th century lord of the manor. It was truly surreal, but a brilliant night. He was so friendly and nice and easy to talk to. A brilliant bloke who does do a lot of unsung charity work. This week saw the start of the latest series of the brilliant Radio 4 extra topical news comedy show, Newsjack, a programme which I have written jokes for in the past and will again be doing so this series. There is a new host. Ramesh Ranganathan has moved on to be replaced by Nish Kumar. It's on the radio every Thursday night at 10:30 p.m. for the next 5 weeks. I am actually looking forward to going to the BBC Radio Theatre next week to see the latest edition being recorded. It's always a decent night out there, and I'm really hoping I'll be there to witness some of my material being used on the night. As far as I'm concerned, there's still something pretty cool about hanging out at the BBC cafe before you head into the theatre. You never know who you might bump into there, so I'll be keeping my eyes open to see who I can spot. Last Thursday, I went to the Duchess Theatre in Covent Garden to see the fantastic The Play That Goes Wrong. A friend of mine told me about it last year sometime. She said she'd heard it was very good and definitely worth seeing. So it's one of those things I've been meaning to see for ages. Then last week, after I just booked some tickets to see it and was looking forward to it, Ant McPartlin, no less, went to see it and said he thought it was brilliant. And he wasn't wrong. I had some cracking seats as well, right in the middle, just 5 rows from the front. I'm so glad I went to see it because it is hilarious. I was laughing from start to finish. The fun starts as soon as you enter the auditorium. It's so well performed and the whole cast are amazing. It's fair to say it's quite a physical piece to perform in. The title does give you an indication of what to expect, but sitting there and seeing it, you can't believe just how wrong it all goes. There are so many laugh out loud moments. It's madness and mayhem half the time, and there's never a dull moment. It's not Shakespeare or Phantom of the Opera, but if you fancy a good old-fashioned laugh for a couple of hours, I would go and see the show. The timing required by the actors to make it all work is phenomenal. Have fun, and we'll catch up again in a couple of weeks. Cheers, Neil.